Well, here I am. Hello, everybody. What's going on? I'm late as usual, but as you'll see when I talk to my other video, I just had tremendous amount of stuff to do, and I don't have time to do it because I didn't get up expecting to have to do everything that I had to do today. All right, so that's what happens to me. I get thrown off kilter. All right, so I did talk a little bit about the police shooting in Canada, and I guess we're not alone in that respect. But I don't get that. Yeah, in the United States, we have a gun culture. I didn't think Canada had a gun culture. We have a gun culture down here, whether we want to admit it or not. Going back to westerns. But the thing about it is, they won't do anything about guns, but they'll take off Roadrunner and Coyote as being too violent for young children. And Bambi was too traumatic or something. They took that off the air too, and that's one of my. That's a very sad movie, but it's a very good movie, and it's what got me interested into animals and stuff like that. So I think it's a great movie, but censors are censors. Censors have no sense, by the way. That's pretty much the way it works out. They don't. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, ciao.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Bye. Thank you. Gracias. Ciao.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's my wife's ex-husband who came over to help today. Everybody comes over to help me, and I don't get to do what I want to do. I want to cook for my wife. I'm not allowed to cook, and I'm a chef. I spent 6 years as a chef and self-trained. My mom taught me how to cook, and I still can know how to cook, and I cook that. And I cook all these exotic stuff for me when nobody's around. So that's the way it goes that way. Anyhow, what's life like with you guys? Where are you at? Anything happening at your end of the world? Jim, I'm gonna try to be back on time tomorrow. I have no idea what's gonna happen though. I could wake up and find out I have a doctor's appointment. That's just I'm not informed about a lot of things. And when I ask questions, I don't ask a lot of questions of my wife because she gets violent, upset. Why are you asking? Well, because you changed your mind. You know, we were supposed to be ordering lunch today. That's what all I heard yesterday. She yelled at me. She said, "We're ordering lunch today." Now we're not. Natalie is cooking something for us. So I have absolutely no desire to listen to the bullshit that goes on in his house anymore. But if I go out and say anything about it now, I'm going to get yelled at. So that's just let's leave it like it is. And I'll deal with it later. But anyhow, I just wanted to know, things are. I don't know what's going to happen. I try not to worry about it because if I do, I'll drive myself crazy. And I don't have far to go in that respect. Most people realize that I'm crazy anyhow. I'm crazy for doing this. I'm crazy for doing videos talking about Trump where nobody's really listening to me. I don't get a lot of feedback except from my one friend, Jim. Uh, Nobody else seems to want to care about me, or not care about me, but care about what I have to say. And like I said, I'm not. I'm just voicing opinions based upon what I read out there, I have friends that don't do anything. They make a comment to another friend on Facebook, and that's the public domain. And if Trump's little minions want to scrub Facebook, they're going to find it, and then who knows what's going to happen then. So you're taking the same risks I'm taking, but I'm doing it, trying to do it in a broader spectrum because I just don't give a shit anymore. In terms of what's going to happen to me. Well, can they shoot me? Yeah. Can they make me sicker? I doubt that. Can they cut off my money? Yeah. That's okay, but I'm not going back to the United States anyhow. So I'm here. They're probably going to take away my right to vote this year. I'm probably going to have problems doing that. but that's okay. You know, I will go on some. I'll be available to any of the Democratic candidates that want me to talk for them. You know, not that they care about me. I don't want to get paid for any of this stuff because I wouldn't know what to do with the money. You know, I'm one of those guys that if he's not broke, he doesn't know what to do with it. You know, he has no idea what to do with the money. So we'll just sit back and see what happens. You know. Anyhow, this is not going to be a long video because, as you can see, I don't have a lot to talk about. But you have two things going on with the removal of stuff. One is Trump is removing the pride flag that was flying at Stonewall. Stonewall's a national monument about slavery rebellion. I forgot. It's about a town where they were black people were massacred during slavery and whatnot. And it's a national landmark where they're going to take the pride flag down. Because Trump has no pride whatsoever. You know, Trump doesn't give a shit about anything. Um, but that's something that should go around and be broadcast everywhere. That he's ordered the flag taken down off of the monument because he's a scumbag. Okay, he was trying. You know, I don't know whether I mentioned this yesterday. He's trying to build a 250 some odd foot tower in Washington D.C. For an archway for Trump. You know, he wants to rename the Dulles Airport. He wants to rename Penn Station. He's done this a lot in places, but you know, uh, hold on, matter Ruby, something. Okay, soup, uh, barbecue chicken, and big order of French fries. Okay. All right, we are ordering food today. I just ordered. I'm sorry if I interrupted you guys, but that's life. This is a real thing. I'm not pre-taping this. I'm not editing this. This is a you see what I see as it happens. You hear me as I'm talking. But anyhow, let's go back to that. He's taking down the pride flag. Then Vance went and deleted a post where he had recognized genocide in the United States or genocide in general, and now he's taking that down. Obviously, fascists can't believe in genocide since they're the ones that committed most of it, so they don't believe in it. You know, so that's that's it. So that's the way they do things. You know, take things down, don't post it. And Vance will obviously say he never said anything that was there. You know, it's like Trump. You know, the tapes don't mean anything. You could tape Trump and you could play the Trump tape, and Trump will stand right there and say, "I didn't say that." Yeah, you did, you fat piece of shit. You say a lot of things you shouldn't say. Your hurtful conversations are resulting in injuries to other people. Your attitude is resulting in injuries, physical and mental injuries to people due to ICE. And the ICE agents you're using, that's not the problem. They're beyond, you know, having to worry about what they're doing affecting themselves. You know, they're not just they're getting paid to commit violence and they love it. You know, they're like back in the 20s and whatnot when the Italian kids lined up to be in the mafia because it was a status symbol. You know, you got laid all the time, you had money, you had everything you needed. You know, and the same thing goes on through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and 90s and even today. You know, kids get involved in shit that, you know, pays them money and gives them status or gets them laid. They don't care whether it's right or wrong. A lot of them. I mean, there depends on their upbringing. But you know, if they need money for their family, a lot of kids commit crime. And you know, there's no clause in the law that says if you commit this crime for to feed your mother or to take care of your mother who has cancer or something like that, it doesn't mean shit. Especially if you're black. Okay, and it's in the north when you do that. You're in, I mean, it's just that's just the way it is. A lot of the gang violence is gangs were originally teenage gangs and whatnot were originally brought together to defend neighborhoods from violence. There was one where I lived in East Orange, and they defended our neighborhood until the leader of the gang guy's mother got mugged. Then he left town because he just he got disillusioned with the whole shit. But that's what they do. That's what they were originally for, protection. And then they decided, well, let's get paid for this. So the next crime was extortion. Then they became organized crime, and they sold dope and stuff like that. But their original intention was well founded. It wasn't let's just go beat up the Puerto Rican kid on the corner, that kind of thing. Uh, the organized gangs were there for protection again, and yeah, they might have started extorting them, other people to pay for that protection, but in the beginning they didn't have to ask for it. They were given stuff, meals and money and whatever. These people didn't have a lot of money, the ones that they were protecting, so they gave them what they could. And then it got to a point where the gangs just decided that they just turned criminal. But that wasn't the intent when they were first formed back in the phew, teens. You know, that's just what happened afterwards, and they've become extremely violent. And most of the outrage is most of these gangs were formed because of what they felt to be racial injustice or injustices that were thrown at them. And sometimes it wasn't real, it was imaginary, but smart people used it to organize these gangs, and once the gangs saw what the money they could have. Look, when I was 1960s, all right, everybody was talking about the hippie movement and everything like that. But there was also a drug trafficking problem. And they asked, I was asked one day, what do you think? This is just somebody stepped to me on the street and asked me, what do you think is going about this? I said, look, you see that kid over, when you walk down the street and you see the kid slinging dope, I said, he's making an hour or more sometimes. And you want to ask that kid, and he's standing there basically doing nothing, you know. And you want to ask that kid to go work for Burger King 8 hours a day for $8 an hour, and that was a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I think it was less than that back then. But minimum wage. I said, "What are you crazy? How can?" Especially when you're talking about a poor child, a poor kid. You know, he sees the rich kids wearing the nice clothes, good brand new jeans, especially when sneakers became hot. I still, I can't. That shoe is one of the cheapestly made shoes on the world, on the planet, and people are paying thousands, hundreds of dollars for new ones and thousands of dollars for old ones. Because they were worn by their heroes. Dude, it's a sneaker. Where are you going to, because you can wear it with a tuxedo because you're cool? I wouldn't have done that, you know. Uh, I would have wore a $200 pair of cowboy boots with a tuxedo, but I wouldn't have, worn a 200 pair of. I paid $90 the last time for regular sneakers. That I bought regular sneakers. I buy Skechers now only because they fit me good. And they're expensive. They're $70, $80, but they're not outrageously expensive. I don't need a new pair of Adidas at $150. What am I going to do with that? Walk around the street with the shoe untied, trying to be cool, scuffing my feet. The shoe lasts a year if you're lucky. So that's what I don't. I don't get that. But that's what part of it. What got the gang culture going was to be cool. You know, I mean, there was a point in time um, where sports jackets could get you killed if you wore the wrong one in the wrong part of town. You know, you couldn't. If you lived in a certain part of town, you rooted for the team that the gang rooted for. You get your ass beat, and then sometimes killed. You know, Hell's Angels were the same way. Hell's Angels was just a bunch of guys that came back out from the war with nothing to do, looking for direction, and they started out as a motorcycle club. And of course, you get and they tried to be exclusive. They had really tough initiations and everything like that. But they were always considered to be on the rough side of the fulcrum. You know, they were never considered to be gentlemen. You know, so but there are motorcycle clubs that are nonviolent. But you know, anyhow, look, I'm done. I gotta go do some stuff. You can see this video later if you want to and comment on it later. You don't have to watch, watch the whole thing now. You can go back, subscribe to it though. Go over to, I not when I started out doing this stuff, I wasn't subscribed to YouTube. I wasn't I pay for the premier membership now just so I can do some other things that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. But you know, you do what you want to do. I'm not telling you to subscribe to YouTube or anything else. I'm telling you to subscribe to my videos, and I don't know how you. It shouldn't cost you anything. All right. At least I hope it doesn't. That's not supposed to. But anyhow, I may be going someplace else as well, to another streaming service as well as YouTube, to get myself out there a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Meantime, take care of yourselves. I will be back tomorrow.